here's an example of the typical user flow that a user is going to go through when they use Plainview. So the user is going to be reading an article, and if that article is on a website that we support, and we support a lot of the major news article websites, and the user wants to, say, archive one of these pages. So what the user does is they copy the URL and they can paste it here. Now, what if the user enters a URL that we don't support? So if we do http google.com, it lets us know that the website is not supported and that they should be using websites that are only from this list. And if they, let's say, choose a site that's supported but doesn't actually have an article on it, and they click go, it lets them know that the Plainview couldn't get the article info because there's no actual article there. That's just a Fox News main page. But if they actually enter a URL that has an article and they hit go, they're going to be brought to our page that is going to actually reproduce entirely that existing page. Now, one of the things that we still have to work on is implementing our own banner on here that says Plainview. So we're able to actually get the entire website that the user was looking at, and it's hosted now on our site. As you can see, that's hosted on localhost, whereas this is actually the New York Post. And so now that the user is on our site, the next front-end feature that we want to implement is actually have quote archival. And so one last thing that we want to implement is when a user, and this is actually not ours, this is from the New York Post itself, but we're going to have our own separate little tooltip that's going to be coming up. So when you highlight something that you want to quote, it'll say Plainview quote this, and when you click that, it's going to notify you that you've just archived a selection actually on the actual page, and you can then share that selection with people that you know. So what do we do with this information? Well, we actually have a database of all these articles that people have actually archived. So this is our database represented visually on our database provider, which is MLab. So if I refresh now and I look at the last entry, we can see that we have an article that has the story content Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly. And if we look at the actual article here, we can see that that is the actual content of the story. And we also have other information. So we keep all the revisions. So as you can see, headline revisions, story content revisions, author revisions, date revisions. So we actually keep track of any time that this article is changed. And so when they go back on our version of this site, it'll actually show them all the different revisions that this article has gone through. And that's actually implemented in terms of technical wise. The only thing that we don't really have is the display of it. So that is also on our to-do list. That's 3 things so far, which is the quote archival, the revision changes, and the banner that'll show up on top. And what else do we have? We have last checked for revision. We also keep track of the author. So Chris Perez was the author. We have the original archive time, so when the user actually archived it. And yeah, I mean, we keep a pretty good track of all these articles. Again, this is the New York Post version by Chris Perez, and then our version also by Chris Perez. So yeah, that's Plainview, and we are hoping to have this up and live with all those 3 features ready in the very, very soon future.